FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
I defy anyone who is breastfeeding a 5-week-old baby to go a whole 10 minutes without saying boob or breast. That was the only word I could get out of my mouth. It was boob this and boob that, and my boobs did this today. Can you believe my boobs? And when I answered the phone, I said, boob? I wasn't sure whether or not it would happen so soon, but I finally arrived at a point where I actually liked breastfeeding. There were still moments when Lita latched on so fiercely that I was afraid she might bite off my boob. See? Boob, boob, boob. But otherwise, it had become a magical, deeply moving experience. Not the type of magical that I had sparklers or smoke shooting out of my nipples, but in the sense that I had the ability to comfort her instantly, and that feeling was really powerful. I'd also developed a technique that didn't require I be surrounded by 50 pillows to support my arms. My goal was to be able to breastfeed and load the dishwasher simultaneously. And when that happened, I planned to take my act on the road. My mother bought me 4 Sears brand nursing bras that I would rotate through my wardrobe. My dad knows that I'm reading this tonight, and I was really uncomfortable with the idea of me talking about my bras. They were the most utilitarian pieces of clothing I'd ever owned and looked as if they were designed with the shape of a 400-pound communist factory worker in mind. But I swore by those Sears brand bras. They were brawsome. They were comfortable enough to sleep in, which meant I didn't ever have to wake up in a puddle of my own milk. The breast pads I wore to soak up the leaking, however, were not Sears brand and were a little less friendly than the bras themselves. They were boob-shaped maxi pads made of disposable cotton that stuck to the inside of the bra, self-adhesive side out. And I had to get used to the idea that as long as I breastfed this kid, I'd have to walk around with crinkly boobs. In fact, it sounded like I had stuffed Twinkies into my bra. Regardless of the inconvenience of the crinkling, I was really glad that I'd stuck with breastfeeding. It's true what they say about the unique bond between mother and child that is facilitated by the tender intimacy of the act, and there were moments in between feedings when I looked forward to the next feeding, to feel her frog feet kick at my chest, to feel her coconut belly pressed against my own. However, I was completely unprepared for the bone-crushing pangs of the breastfeeding hunger. Everyone talks about hunger during pregnancy, myself included, and that hunger is typically about specific cravings. So specific, in fact, that you shouldn't be surprised if your pregnant wife wakes you up at 3 a.m. asking for a Whopper from Burger King, an order of fries from McDonald's, and a Frosty from Wendy's. It would behoove you to honor these cravings as if they were orders from God. Because a Frosty from Wendy's is completely different than a milkshake from McDonald's. And if you bring back a milkshake from McDonald's, your baby will most likely grow up never knowing his father. John had it easier than most men because my cravings were for things we had stocked in the house. We had bags of nacho cheese Doritos in bulk, and if I ever had a craving in the middle of the night, he only had to go as far as the kitchen cabinet. There were moments, however, when the only thing I wanted to eat was whatever John had sitting on his plate. And even if he ordered the largest carton of fries on the fast food menu, he was lucky enough to get 2 of them from the plate to his mouth successfully. The breastfeeding hunger, though, is far more consuming than the pregnancy hunger because it isn't about specific cravings. Although if the dog had been covered in chocolate, I would have totally eaten him. The breastfeeding hunger is more about craving every kind of food. It is an equal opportunity hunger, a hunger that does not discriminate, a hunger that believes homosexuals should be allowed to marry. I can't read this passage in Utah. Half the room would leave. Breastfeeding made me hungry all the time. Once I finished breakfast, I was thinking about my mid-morning snack and what it would feel like in my mouth. Toward the end of the day, I'd get so hungry, so panicked in my hunger, that John knew better than to ask me what I wanted to eat. I didn't want a choice. I wanted him to think for me. I wanted food. Choices took time to sort through, and last time I checked, time didn't taste like anything. So I just opened the refrigerator and start eating. Sometimes I'd forget to take the plastic outer wrapping off of whatever I was eating, but that's what the large intestine is for. One night, Lita was sitting contentedly in her car seat, and we decided to use that opportunity to cook an actual meal on the stove with food that wasn't packaged in a box. I prepared 2 full plates to carry to the dining room table, the place where childless people ate their meals, memories. But somewhere on that 10-foot journey from the kitchen countertop to the dining room, I ate everything on my plate. And I would have eaten everything on his plate too had he not held it high above his head so that I could not reach it. It was his small way of saying, woman, have some dignity. So that's my boobs.